From WKGC's Studio A on the campus of Gulf Coast State College, the Military Hour with your host, Carrie Dieter, on AM 1480, Southport, Panama City, Florida.
Welcome to Military Hour. We have a special guest with us this morning. We have Mr. Dennis Harper, who is a teacher at Tech School, which is Haney Tech, out off 77 Highway. Good morning, Dennis.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you again, brother. So you're going to tell us about what's going on out there at Haney and maybe something about that F-22 and whatever comes across your lips as far as the program out there, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, fill us in. Let us know what's going on out there.
Well, we got a great program going. We got airframe and power plant program, and we just got an F-15 from Tyndall. We're growing, and we're looking to get more students coming in. Our next general class is going to start sometime beginning of February.
February starts the next class.
Next class.
So that's like an enrollment type period.
Yep. And that will be, you will start the general class either going for airframe or power plant.
Can you do both at the same time, or?
Well, you got to take the general class to go into either one.
I see. So there's a prerequisite.
There's a prerequisite to get into airframe, or prerequisite to get into power plant. So once you go through either one of those, then you can go back to airframe or power plant.
So that's like a general aviation to start with.
In general aviation, it's all your physics and math, just anything that deals generally with aviation.
Huh. And then, so they get accredited from that, and I'm sure there's licensing involved.
Yeah, there is licensing. We're a Federal Aviation Part 147 school, and that allows, once they've completed our program, they can go and take their written test and their oral and practicals and become a licensed carrying mechanic. They can go to Delta, Southwest, anywhere and work on airplanes, helicopters, anything like that.
So jets, helicopters, the whole nine yards.
The whole ball of wax.
Wow, I had no idea that even existed here in Bay County at Haney Technical. So that's good news to know and good to hear. I don't know how many of our listeners are aware of that, but if anybody out there is listening, you have an interest and probably a little bit of aptitude for mechanical, have that ability, you might want to check this out at Haney Technical, because it sounds like something that would be beneficial to a long-term career, probably make a good income and a good living at it.
Make a good income, very good income. If you're interested, you can call the school at 767-5500 and get the information, or go on down there at 3016 Highway 77. Go in and talk to the counselors.
Give us that phone number one more time, please.
It's 850-767-5500.
Light them up, give them a call, because, not everybody, and I say this kind of tongue-in-cheek, the big push around the country is let's get all the kids to go to college, and, and there's a lot of degrees out there, but if you've got a trade, whether it's electrician, plumber, auto mechanic, airframe, or engine mechanic, these are trades that we need.
We do need them. We do need them. It's hard to find mechanics nowadays that can go out, because the mechanic era is getting up in age, and we need to build that up so we stay at a nice age, so people aren't retiring and we're not filling those positions.
Yeah, and it's not just the service industries like that, or the trades, I should say, that are having that problem with replenishing, and it's forcing people not to retire,
right? Because
we don't have trained individuals to fill those spots. You can name a myriad of things. Hydraulics. My goodness.
And the hydraulics is actually part of the class we teach for airframe. So you get into flight controls, you get into hydraulics. We teach electrical. We teach composites, sheet metal. There's just so many things that we teach in airframe alone that you could do in different parts of any career field.
Yeah, I didn't mention welding. Goodness gracious.
And we do that too.
Let's see. Yeah,
and we get your hands all dirty with that.
I was one of those guys that liked that because I was an old paint and body man and do mechanic stuff. So
you're not going to be a certified mechanic, a certified welder, but you're going to know how to do some welding and how to inspect them, and that just opens many doors for you to do other things as well.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So real quick, so don't take me through the first part of it, but let's say I'm in your class and I got to airframe. So what is kind of the curriculum and the time period to go through all that? And let's say I'm a average to maybe a little better student, and what would be my success rate then in finding work?
Our actual pass rate, once you get through a class and you've taken the test, we have a pass rate of 99%.
99%.
We have a pass rate of 99%, and we have an 86% placement rate into a job.
99%, and that's no fudging.
No, that's straight up.
Dedicated, they're studying, and they're really learning it.
Mm-hmm. And they're getting out there, they're starting a career, they're making a good living.
Phenomenal. And 86% placement?
Yes.
Now,
86.
is that in the state of Florida or locally or all over the country?
It's wherever they got to go to get a job, we'll help them get to what they need.
That is fantastic. Folks, I hope you're listening. If you have a young person out there that doesn't quite know what they may want to do, they might want to check out a trade if they're so inclined. Even the field of robotics. I mean, there's so many fields out there where you've actually got to use not only your brain, but your hands. So that's good to know. Now, how many weeks would I be in your airframe class?
Airframe class is 960 hours.
Excuse me.
So you're looking at 9 months.
9 months.
9 months for that. Before you get into the airframe, general class is about 5, so it's 480 months or 480 hours.
480 hours.
Yeah, 480 hours. And then power plant would be the same. It'd be 960 hours. So you could do the whole program in 2 years.
Wow. So we're talking, I'm not real good at math, 1,920 hours. Is that right? Is that what we're talking?
1920.
1920.
Yeah.
And tell me, what is the cost of, let's say, just one part of that, the airframe? What's the cost to the student?
I don't really have, because it's
approximate.
The airframe, because if you do airframe, general is kind of part of that. Okay, so you're looking at I think like $6,500, and then if you go to power plant, you're looking altogether at $9,000. Compared if you go to any of these other big schools, you're looking at $29,000 average for going to those schools.
So we're talking if you do the initial and you do the airframe and you do the engine, $9,000.
$9,000.
Now, is any of that covered at all for veterans under VA?
All of them are covered under VA for general airframe and power plant. Right now, we're a little low on Pell grants for power plant because that has not been approved. So that's where we're standing. We have some local in-house Haney scholarships that we use to get those students through power plant.
Well, I'm one of those proponents of scholarships, yeah, and so that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and apply for them if you need that.
Definitely apply for them. They're out there.
Now, apart from, say, the $9,000 to go through the entire program, are there additional costs for tools or books or any of that type thing?
The cost at $9,000 includes books.
That includes books.
It includes books. Now, once you get through general, we have a tool list. You need to get a toolbox, and it's a tool list, and you're looking at from anywhere from $300 to $500, depending on how in depth you want to get into quality of tools. Right now, you're just starting your toolbox, so you need the tools and a box. So $300 to $500 is a pretty good starter kit, because as you get going through the class, you might say, hey, I want to get this. You might go add that. When I was working, before I was teaching here over in Louisiana, I had my toolbox, and I think in 1 year I spent over $3,000 on tools, upgrading and saying, well, I need to have this, and I'd go get that.
That's not hard to do.
No. I mean, but when you're out in the field and you're working, you're making a good living.
Yeah.
You're making a good living, and
I understand that. Now, I did something, and you know a little bit of my background of being an old wrench twister, but I did something because we were caught in that transition between SAE and metric. Well, and I was an independent business owner. I could not expect my people to go out and spend money during this conversion. So I made sure that me as the owner put up the metrics that we had to have and enough to do the shop so everybody could have access until such time. But yeah, people don't realize the expense involved with tools and tooling. Now, we were fortunate because we always had the Snap-on guy or the Mac tool guy come by, and all that stuff. And Blue Point is off kind of secondary, But in any event, so that was a big help to our business. I don't imagine they do that in the aviation business, do they?
We have, when I was working in Louisiana, we had once a week a Snap-on truck would come by.
Is that right?
We'd have a Snap-on truck. You go down to any of the businesses where you wanted to buy, say you needed a new torque wrench for a proto.
Yeah.
You had a discount because you worked for the company. There's lots of good things out there to help the mechanics, especially if they're partnered up with where you work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And eventually it got to where, they could start buying their own a little bit at a time. But we were at that crunch when things were just, so I'm like, wow, we're in the business. We got to keep fixing them. So we got to have the tools for my people.
Yep.
So,
And out there now, they've kind of stopped. So everybody's stuck with either metric or the commons.
Yeah.
And so you need to have them all.
Exactly. Yeah, you do have to have them all. And I remember way back, and it may be this way in some of your business, I don't know, but there was a mixture on some of the vehicles. There was some standard and there was some metric, and it was a little bit testy, let's say. It was as you were working on them. So.
I remember working on the EC-135. It's a German airplane, right?
Yeah.
Or German helicopter. And it's got American engines in it. So you had to have the metric for the helicopter.
Combo.
But the engines was all
Yeah.
And so you had to remember which one you were going to grab, and you had to have everything in your little tote tray that you had carrying your tools out to the helicopter.
Either that or you're doing a lot of up and down and walking back and forth.
Doing a lot of walking.
That's a time waster.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, tell you what, that is just very interesting that right here in Bay County we have this availability at such an affordable price, if you want to use the word price, but for a great education and a great trade. My goodness, why wouldn't some of the young folks want to avail themselves of that? So, and I don't know, how many you have in a class or how many actually do, but I would hope that folks listening will encourage some young people to go out there and get on this program.
Yeah, we're looking for more and more people. We're looking to grow. I can foresee myself in maybe 2 years that when you get to airframe or power plant, we're going to be over 25 students per class. So we have to have 2 instructors.
There you go.
So there's more jobs for instructors to train the students. And right now, we're getting 20 to 25 people into the general class, every class, and they're getting through the class. So filling up the other parts of the class is just kind of feeding the other 2 parts, and it's building. It's building.
Well, good.
And because it's building, they're giving the airframe is getting a new area. It's getting a new shop and classrooms and all that. They put a lot of money into it, and I should be into that area in a couple of weeks. And then it's my understanding about the 15th of December, they're going to have an open house. An airframe open house.
15th December. Open to the public? Anybody
Open
can
to the
come?
public. They'll come in. They can see the new airframe area. Also, they can go over and look at the F-15, browse it. I worked that airplane specifically for 4 years when I was in the service, and I worked 15s for 24. So having that plane back is really meaning a little bit to me because it was my airplane for 4 years.
Yeah, I understand.
And I know quite a bit, so anybody has any questions, they can ask.
And thank you for your service, by the way. Speaking of your service, before I get to that, I love to fly, but I know absolutely nothing about it other than I like to. I love to fly. Not crazy about landing, but I do love to take off and fly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I understand if you're going to have a problem, it's usually on takeoff, but I just love that.
Yep.
Man, I enjoy that.
Yep. And most of your problems are usually going to happen on takeoff or landing. That's when most of them happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to have any failures or something, because the landing gear closes, you got more moving parts moving, then you're flying straight and level.
Yeah. See, I think that goes right to the heart of what we're talking about here. Let's get some qualified airframe and engine mechanics, because without them, guess what? They're not going anywhere. You can have 10,000 pilots and no mechanics, and guess what? They're not going.
That's right.
Yeah. And the whole deal is keep them in the air.
Keep them in the air. I saw something the other day that was talking about how the aviation industry is supposed to grow in the next 15 years, and it's supposed to grow by like 40%.
Wow.
And if you're looking for a career and you think you're good at it, even if you don't have any mechanical ability, you're going to get mechanical ability when you get it through the class. We work real close with the students, one-on-one, to work with them to get to that point. It's just a great opportunity, and for long-term employment, a career, retirement, thinking down the road 30, 40 years,
yeah,
it is awesome.
Absolutely. And again, the hands-on, it's not just the book learning that's going on, it's the practical application and the practical knowledge, because you can read a book all day, but until you're actually doing what's required to be done mechanically as such, you really don't know.
Oh, that is absolutely right. I mean, the general class is mostly, I'd say, 80% booked, because you're doing all the preamps to get into where you're going into after. But I say 80% is shop time, lab time, when you get into airframe and power plant. It's like yesterday when we were in composites dealing with honeycomb and fiberglass and stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually built honeycomb fiberglass sandwich panels, and they inspected them this morning, and they were just tickled to death that they had no air bubbles in them and stuff like that. And so to actually see.
So the students crafted and built the honeycomb.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Terrific.
They built everything. They see that there's no delamination in the fiberglass, and now they get to go through, and I'm going to damage them, so they have to repair them. Yeah. So it's hands-on. The project before was electrical. We went through and built a starting system on one of our trainers. I take it all apart, and they build a starting system. They build an alternator charging system, because I pull it all off for the next class when they got to go in and they got to put it all together, figure it out. So it's all hands-on, understanding how something works.
Yeah.
I mean, you can read anything in a book, but you have to be able to apply it.
Oh, yeah.
And once you put your hands on it and you understand, like a hydraulic actuator or a landing gear or a brake system, you can read about it. But once you get out there and you're actually putting your hands on it, and all this is coming back in your mind saying, oh, my God, I remember reading this. This is what this is. I've had students that when somebody gets something, the light
bulb goes off.
Their eyes just light up. You can see it. And you don't see it when you're in the classroom. You're doing the lecture discussion. You get a discussion. But when you get out into the lab and you see them getting into it, and then they look up and they look at you, and the light is just on. And you're like, yes, I got to one of them.
That's the aha moment. I love those. Yeah, I like to have them myself too. But not that I've had many of them, but I've had a couple at least. So, but anyways, I'll tell you what, I had no idea how in-depth what you do out there is. I mean, obviously I know you as a brother and a friend, but man, that's a formidable job you've got, trying to pass that knowledge along and teach that knowledge to the young folks. And I commend you for that, and thank you for your service. I want you to tell me about your years in the service. I think you told me you were Air Force, correct?
Yeah, I was in the Air Force. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do when I left high school.
Most of us weren't.
and within my last year of high school, I actually went around to the Marines, the Navy, Army, Air Force, checked to see what they had to provide. And I decided, well, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to work on jet engine helicopters. So I said, the best place for me to do that. So I joined the Air Force. But when I joined, I had an open career field. They could have made me a cook. But I got lucky. When I got to basic training, they said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to work on jet engine helicopters. And it just so happens they had this F-100 engine class or career field, which is the F-100 engine is in the F-16 and F-15s. So I did that, and I was at tech school at Chanute, and I joined in '86. You know, my joining date was September 11th
Of 86.
of '86.
Huh.
Of '86, and it's
Certainly
every
a
time that comes
significant
around,
date.
yeah, significant date. It always, it's a little special to me.
Yeah.
Every time I get to that point, every year on September 11th now.
That's when you stepped up.
It means a lot.
Yep, you took
But,
the same path a lot of us did. Wrote that blank check up to and including your life if necessary.
Yep. And so,
Thank you.
my first, so I went to tech school at Chanute, which is not there anymore. They made it it's a museum now in Illinois.
That's where they want to put me, I think. Put me away in a museum, getting a little old.
You got a little ways to go.
Long in the tooth. Well, I hope so.
But my first, so while I was at tech school, I got an assignment down. I was supposed to go to, what was that base down in Florida that got hit by the tornado? I can't remember.
Oh, Homestead.
Homestead got hit by the
that was
hurricane.
92, I believe.
I think I was supposed to go to Homestead, and I was going to work 16th. And about 2 weeks later, I got another assignment down to go to Tyndall as an engine troop working F-15s. And so I worked F-15s. I got there. I did my engine stuff for 4 years. And then the Air Force decided that they wanted to mix all the hydraulics, crew chiefs, engine troops into one career field. They called it rivetized. They're going to get rivetized. And
sounds like get rid of you guys.
yeah, get rid of you guys. And really that's what it was. And I think it was 90, 91. They were making people get out.
Mm-hmm.
And their fix was to rivetize us. But I did until 91. About 91, after they rivetized us, I did engines, hydraulics, crew chiefing. Then I went to Alaska for 4.5 years. That was a good assignment. I loved it.
Oh, really?
I got to work in an inspection section. I really got to know the ins and outs of the F-15. Then I came back to Tyndall in 96. I worked the flight line crewing the jet that's at Tyndall or at Haney, 8523. That was my baby. I crewed it for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
That.
How about that?
Yep. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot and worked a lot of 12, 14-hour shifts working on.
That goes with the territory.
And you just didn't work your airplane. You had to work all 26 airplanes in the squadron. But I did that, and a position came open for me to teach in the Air Force. So I went and applied for it at the Field Training Detachment. I got accepted, so I taught F-15 maintenance for 4.5 years. And that's where I kind of fell in love with teaching.
Yeah, I can see the building blocks and
see the
why
building
you're
blocks.
where you are now.
And then when I left there, I went to Korea. I worked A-10s for that 1 year.
A-10s? Oh,
A-10s.
I want one of those so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a Warthog, please.
Oh, I got some. I got a 30mm casing. Oh, that's nice. That airplane is so easy to work. That's real easy because the airplane is just built around the gun.
They were talking about retiring that thing. I hope they don't.
Oh, I hope they don't either. That's such a good
for close air ground support.
Close air ground
goodness.
support. You can tear some people up, tear some equipment up with that thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but I did a year there. Came back to Tyndall. Went back to Tyndall.
You're just a hang around here, aren't you?
I'm just a hang around here.
West Florida.
It's just where I kind of ended up coming back to.
Yeah, a lot of us have.
Yep. So in the whole time I've been at Tyndall, I've been in all 3 AMUs, F-15 units. It was the first AMU, it was the second AMU, and the 95th. I've been through all of them. All had 15s while they were there. I did that for a while, and then I became to be in charge of the 26 planes. I was a production superintendent, so I got to manage the 200 some people in the 26 airplanes to do that. And then my last year, I went up to the group and was the FOD guy in charge of running that program, and that was a lot of fun. And then I retired in 2010. I decided I'd had enough.
Kind of a slacker, are you?
Yeah, I kind of slacked off, said I don't want to do this no more. After that, I went, was a contractor on the base for 6 months, worked the F4s a little bit. Then I went and taught at Haney for 2 years. Had some stuff happen in my life. Had to go make a lot of money, so I went to Louisiana. Worked there for 2 years on helicopters. That was a lot of fun, but it was hard on you because you had to drive. It was a 7 on, 7 off.
Mm-hmm.
So I left Thursday morning, drove my 6 hours to Louisiana. I'd work that night 12 hours and do that all the way until Thursday morning. And then I'd drive back home. Well, after, I lost 60 pounds at 2 years. I was down 60 pounds. My last 6 months I was working there, I lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
It just got to be too much, coming back and not trying to get onto a different sleeping schedule when you get home. That was too hard.
That old body clock will catch up with you.
So I kind of took some time off, did some stuff around the house, kind of lived a retirement life for a few months. Got bored.
I was going to say, almost went crazy. Had to find something to do, right?
Yeah, I got bored, so I decided I was going to go back to work.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I went back to the school, and I talked to them. And about 2 weeks later, they called me and said, "Hey, you want a job?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, come on, we'll do an interview, hire you, do that."
Good deal.
So I did that. Now I'm back there, and I just love it.
Well, it's been said, if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life, and that was my experience too, because I really did. I enjoyed it, loved it, and now I've come full circle doing this. And of course, I do this as a volunteer, but it's a lot of fun. I meet a lot of people, and interesting people, all of them, bar none. But I'm especially interested in education, and hearing about this program at Haney, I was excited, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Not that I like to, but just because I will. Can I come out there and get up in one of them things and get a picture?
I told you could come out there.
Okay, I want to make sure it was still there in case I upset you or something.
No, you can come out there. I'll give you a tour of the school, the F-15. I'll even put your scrawny butt up there in the cockpit and get a picture of you.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to move along on that one. We're not going to get into that kind of stuff. But in any event, Dennis, I commend you on what you're doing out at Haney. Now, tell me about the man that started the program, because he's former military, and was he Army or was he Air Force?
He was Air Force. Franklin Stevens.
Franklin Stevens.
Yep. He retired. I don't know when he retired, but he retired as a general.
General.
One-star general. He retired, and after that, he went through he set up different schools for aviation.
Around the country?
Around the country. I think he was up in Ohio, I think. Don't quote me on that.
No.
But I know he's got a lot of experience in aviation. So about 6-7 years ago, he was working down here at Haney. He was the assistant administrator, I think. And they went on a trip to a school that was teaching aviation, airframe, and power plant. And he was listening and learning, and he says, "Are you guys a Part 147 school?" And they said, "No, we're not." And so he's kind of like,
"What is that?" I mean, I don't know what
Part 147. It's a federal aviation. They come through on Part 147 and say, "This is what must be taught in the school."
For accreditation.
For accreditation.
Licensure and all that type
Part
of thing.
147, that means the school has been accredited, so that way when they get through the school, they can test. Without
Roger.
that accreditation of the Part 147, all you're doing is getting trained and
spinning your wheels.
Spinning your wheels.
Going nowhere. Gotcha.
Going nowhere. So he came back and he started setting up the program and set it up. We got started. We set the airframe portion up first. It got going. And then about the time the students were supposed to go into power plant, we got that up. He got that up and running. When I came in here to Haney the first time, that's when power plant was just about to get started. And we had a lot of times the FAA would come down and inspect to make sure everything was right. And we had several inspections. And we finally got it going. We got that up and going. And now it's just kind of blossoming into something bigger and bigger. And before, I think right now our aviation program is on 3,800 square feet. We got a little flight line, and we got a hangar that the F-15's in. But it just took him going through and getting everything done and dealing with all the red tape with the FAA to get it started. And not only the FAA, but then you got to go through and deal with the state, because Haney is state funded.
I'm with you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he had to go through and get all that done. So now we not only do we deal with the FAA, we also deal with the state, making sure we're meeting both criterias to get everybody trained and get their license.
Yeah, a lot of people don't quite grasp that. A really, really great idea or a great program takes a great deal of work and maneuvering to be in compliance and make sure that it fits, at a federal, state, and even the local levels. But, man, terrific program for this area especially. I mean, and I understand that you're kind of on the hunt right now for a helicopter, whether it flies, doesn't fly, or just something that you need. And I heard, don't know if it's true, that the Army or DOD, one or the other, is going to retire some Kiowas helicopters. But tell us exactly what you're looking for in a helicopter to use in your program, and maybe somebody out there listening can help facilitate that or knows how to point you in a direction to go to get that helicopter to help teach these young folks.
Yeah, we are looking for a helicopter. We're looking for something that it doesn't have to run, but it needs
Bell helicopter or something like that. Doesn't matter.
Something that we can teach the students on how the flight controls work. They can go up and watch them move. They can take them off and maybe do a rigging check on flight controls, how the blades move, things like that. Maybe something that later on down the road we might be able to get running as long as we have the proper safety procedures in line. I don't want to lose any students.
Right.
But we're looking for something like that we can teach, especially when a fuel system on a helicopter is a little different than on an airplane. It's set up different. It's got the same components, but if they can see it, they can understand that a little more.
Sure.
Getting their hands on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anybody out there that's got any idea or where to direct and point Dennis Harper or the school in acquiring a not running helicopter, I guess you'll take just any kind of helicopter, won't you?
As long as I got some manuals that go with it, I can teach the students the right way to check them and do those things. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, well, let's see if somebody can help you out with that, because nobody has a corner on the market on brains, and there just might be a listener or a viewer out there that goes, hey, he can go here or he can go there. Yep. I imagine, I'm not sure, that the government probably is putting some of that stuff out for internet bids or whatever. They may have clearinghouses now. I don't know, because everything's changed since way back when I was in. But hopefully we can get you some help on that and get that thing kicked off out there on a helicopter and teaching these young folks helicopters. Now, I got a question. Have you had any young ladies come through the program?
We have several ladies.
Good.
Do you remember Judy Dickey?
I do. Yes.
Judy Dickey came through my general class. She came. I believe she went through airframe, but I left before she completed. I've talked to her a couple times. I really don't know what she's doing. I bet you I've had 20 girls come through the class.
Good deal.
The general class that we have right now, I think, has 2 or 3 in it.
Good deal.
Out of 20 people. So it's just not a man's career field.
Right.
I've known a lot of women that are very good mechanics.
As have I. Now, I'm going to share a story real quick with you. You know what a case-hardened bolt is, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to mention any names, but I have a very dear friend and his wife. I'm not even going to use her nickname. She acquired a nickname after this. They were changing a transmission, straight shift transmission, out of a hot rod, and she was helping her husband. And she was tightening up a bolt on this thing, case-hardened bolt now. And she's very short of stature, very light of frame, and she broke it, snapped it off. I mean, the girl doesn't realize her own strength.
Right.
Amazing. So when we're off the air, I'll tell you the nickname she got, and if they're listening or viewing this, don't you give me up the country when you see me. But God knows you got to love a gal that's got that kind of strength. And my dear wife, she worked for Boeing, and I won't say it right, but she helped build aircraft and did electronics and stuff like that. And another one that's itty-bitty. But if I tell her to bring me a 13 millimeter or get me a 5/8, she can do it. Boom, boom. Not only that, she'll push me out of the way and say, "Here, I'll do that." That's my girl.
Now, my fiance, I say, "Can you hand me that common screwdriver?" She come back with a wrench.
She come back with a wrench. Well, some got it, some don't. You know?
She's just never been around it.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I'm going to have to train her.
Yeah. Well, speaking of training, I have really enjoyed you coming out this morning. You have enlightened me. I want you to come back and tell us more about the program out at Haney. And because if I see some young people that are maybe aimless or not real sure, I go, "Have you thought about a trade? Maybe you ought to go check out Haney and their program over there for avionics, because it sounds like the right thing to do." And again, thank you for your service. Come on, somebody, step up to the plate. Let's find him a broken-down helicopter to work on with these young folks out there. Signing off for Military Hour. Tune in next week, Thursday. Appreciate you. We're out of here.
From WKGC's Studio A on the campus of Gulf Coast State College, the Military Hour with your host, Carrie Dieter, on AM 1480, Southport, Panama City, Florida.